This boy named Alec Igret was just an unemployed brat who spent most of his time doing useless things like fishing around the capital. A flashy magician named Elders approached him and asked if he was interested in magic. At first, Alec thought that Elders was Diddy's agent, but it turns out he was actually interested in teaching him magic. Elders soon started teaching him how to cast spells by making him imagine the friends he would make in the future and how he would need to save them from monster attacks. Thanks to his trauma-heavy teaching methods, Alec managed to learn magic quickly. Even then, he was disappointed that it took him a whole day to learn a single spell, and he didn't even listen to Elders mumbling that it takes normal people a month to learn that spell. Alec eagerly asked Elders to teach him another spell, but the teacher told the overeager boy that one spell was enough for the day. Alec wasn't satisfied by that, but Elders remained firm on his decision, and they decided to waste the rest of their time fishing. Alec kept pouting the entire time, but then Elders boosted his ego by telling him that he had great talent for magic. He told Alec that even without his lessons, he would become a great magician in the future, and asked him to leave it to fate. Alec was shocked to hear this and asked Elders why he was teaching him magic in the first place. But before he could give an answer, a fish got caught in his line. Elders panicked because he had never caught a fish before, and Alec laughed at him before helping him out, saying that a magician as skilled as him should know how to catch fish. Anyway, their life as a student and teacher continued as time passed, and Elders taught Alec a lot about magic. But then one day, Elders suddenly announced that he was leaving the capital. Alec was devastated by this news because that meant he would never meet his teacher again. But Elders had a final piece of advice for him. He told Alec that if he ever got the chance to become a court magician in the future, he should refuse to take the role. Alec couldn't understand what he meant by that, and asked Elders why he even taught him magic in the first place. Elders shed his gloomy expression for a moment as he talked about Alec's late mother, who did him a great favor when she was alive, and he was just trying to repay her son by teaching him. That was the last time Alec saw his teacher, and he worked hard to enter the Royal Magic Academy so that he could meet him again. There, Alec found that Elders was once a student of the same academy and had graduated at the top of his class, becoming a court magician soon after that. However, he was kicked out from that post in a few years, and Alec realized why Elders told him not to become a court magician. But instead of following his teacher's advice, Alec decided to become a court magician so he could change the unfair imperial court itself. Long story short, he succeeded and became a court magician. But it turns out he should have listened to Elders' advice. Alec realized this only when Crown Prince Regulus fired him from his adventure party in the middle of a dungeon. When he asked the prince for a reason, the blonde told him he was being fired because he was useless. Regulus talked about how he risked his life on the front line to beat monsters, how the fire magician Lenny used her spells to repel monsters, and how their tank blocked enemy attacks. On the other hand, Alec stayed in the rear all the time and could only cast pitiful support magic. Regulus said they didn't need a loser like him in their party, then further insulted Alec by saying that he didn't even deserve to be called a court magician. Alec tried to explain why he only used support magic, but Regulus didn't want to hear it. Lenny agreed with him, calling Alec a coward who didn't have the guts to go deeper into the dungeon, and saying he was always holding them back. Nine silently nodded in agreement as well. And then Lenny said they had put up with him only because the king ordered him to join their party. However, now that the prince decided to kick him out, she saw no reason to behave politely with him. Regulus then said that Alec must have gotten the top score at the academy by giving a handy to the professors for extra credit. He asked Alec why he had a dagger when commoners were forbidden from carrying weapons. Alec explained that they would need the dagger for the next dungeon floor, but Regulus got furious. He took the dagger away, grabbed Alec's collar, and shouted that no one in his party disobeys him. Then the prince snatched away Alec's court wizard robe, telling him he didn't deserve it. Devastated, Alec had no choice but to leave the dungeon. However, despite being fired and humiliated, he still wanted to help Regulus and the party. He prepared some notes that could help the prince tackle the lower dungeon floors, especially since Regulus lacked magic power. The next day, Alec went to the palace to meet the king, but the guard stopped him, telling him he had been removed from the court magician post, and that commoners were not allowed inside without permission. Shocked, Alec stood frozen. Just then Lenny walked up to rub salt into his wounds. She told him to get lost and walk back inside. Alec begged her to listen just once and requested that she take the notes to the king, since he was the one who made Alec a court magician. Lenny took the notes, only to tear them up and stomp on them. She then ordered the guards to throw him out, leaving Alec hopeless and jobless in the middle of the city. He finally realized that he should have listened to elders and not become a court magician. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice calling his name. Alec turned and saw a redhead staring at him before running up and hugging him. He took a moment to process it, but eventually recognized the girl as Yora, an old friend from his academy days. They sat down to catch up, and Alec told Yora how he was kicked out of the prince's party and stripped of his position. Furious, Yora cursed the kingdom for discriminating between nobles and commoners, and Alec had to calm her down before people heard them. Then Yora said it was actually a good thing that he was fired. Alec didn't even react after everything he had endured, but then Yora reminded him that she once promised to make him join her party someday. Alec remembered, and Yora revealed she had come to the capital for that exact reason. She got up, stretched her hand toward him, and asked him to conquer dungeons with her. Alec was happy to receive the offer, but he doubted himself after being fired. Yora didn't care. She told him that the only magician she wanted in her team was him, and that no one else could replace him. Alec got emotional and accepted immediately, and Yora gladly welcomed him into her A-rank party, lasting period. The next day, Alec left the country with Yora, remembering elders' advice about court magicians. A few days later, news of Alec leaving the country reached Regulus and his party, but they didn't care. Regulus complained that Alec was hailed as a genius, and he had high hopes for him, but now thought they wasted their time because of him. Lenny reassured him that they didn't need to worry since a pure-blooded noble would soon join the party and make them stronger. Meanwhile, Alec and Yora reached Fizzle, the city of dungeons. Yora explained that the city was packed with adventurers and didn't discriminate between nobles and commoners. She wanted to get Alec registered quickly, but the guild shocked them. The receptionist said Alec couldn't join Yora's party because they explored deeper than floor 30, and Alec needed to be a guild member for at least 2 years before he could be allowed. Yora threw a tantrum and demanded an exception, but the receptionist refused. Yora asked whether her friend Kra had said something, and the receptionist confirmed Kra came and threatened them, but they dealt with crazies daily, so it didn't matter. Empty-handed, Alec and Yora went to a public park to eat lunch. Yora told Alec that their party had reached floor 52 and couldn't wait 2 years for him, but she refused to give up. If they couldn't go to deeper dungeons, they would warm up in shallow ones. Alec agreed, and they immediately went to a low-level dungeon filled with insect monsters. Yora boosted Alec's speed with reinforcement magic and dashed through monsters effortlessly. But soon she noticed the number of bugs wasn't decreasing. They were growing stronger. Alec agreed, saying something must be wrong in the nest. As they fought, Yora activated her shield and charged forward. Alec warned her it was risky, but she told him this was nothing and said he had lost his edge. She reminded him that the Alec of the past would never struggle with monsters like these. She asked him to trust her and become his true self again. Alec realized she was right. Remembering Elder's lessons about saving his friends, he regained his confidence. He unleashed fireballs, took down monsters with ease, and even fought using his dagger. But then a massive swarm surrounded them, until Yora cast a barrier, buying Alec time. He prepared a huge wide-area spell that instantly disintegrated every bug. Just as things calmed down, the ground rumbled and a gigantic earthworm burst out, nearly swallowing Yora. Alec shouted for her to activate her shield and promised he would save her. Yora trusted him completely and raised her shield. Alec then summoned a fire serpent that engulfed the earthworm, reducing it to ash while Yora remained unharmed. As she landed safely, she ran to Alec, saying he was still the strongest attack mage she knew. Their fight reminded her of their academy days when they struggled against a 5-headed dragon whose hide was too tough and whose attacks were relentless, until Alec obliterated it with one spell after charging up long enough. Thanks to that, they cleared the 68 dungeon floor and set a new academy record. And now, Alec was finally joining that same legendary party once again. Back when they destroyed the level 68 boss and returned to Magical Academy, they were hailed as the best batch of students the Academy had seen in a long while. Even one of their instructors, named Rosie, knew that there was something different about these four students, as they seemed to blend with each other and work together with unmatched synergy. They all returned from the dungeons with bruises and cuts, but with wide smiles on their faces because they had just beaten the all-time record of reaching and crossing the level 68 dungeon. Not only did they beat the record, they utterly smashed it, since the last strongest party was only able to reach until the 32nd floor. Finally, the day of graduation came when Rosie released their scores. Rain was fourth in class, followed by Craw in third, then Yora as runner-up, and finally Alec, who was the best scoring student by far in recent history and the class valedictorian. They were all happy and full of hope back then, as they made fun of their instructor and even got beaten up for it. While they were leaving the academy together, the remaining students jealously watched what they thought was a conception of one of the best parties they would ever see, a party surely bound for legendary status. Unaware that Alec would soon decide he didn't want to pursue a career as an adventurer and instead wanted to become a court magician. His party members were stunned by this news, but they realized the job of court magician was comparatively easier with much better and stable pay. Even though they were disheartened, they never blamed Alec and wished him good luck for the future. Yora promised that someday they would be a team again. In the present, that promise seems to be fulfilled as Yora and Alec celebrate in a bar where, after only taking a single glass of booze, Yora is completely blackout drunk. She starts ranting about not being allowed into deeper dungeons yet, but soon ends up sleeping right there on the bench. Alec smiles at her, remembering how she was basically the same during their academy years. He puts his jacket on her, so she can sleep a little warmer, but one of the people inside the bar doesn't seem to like this. He walks up to Alec, mocking him for being a beta male. Alec ignores him since the man is a fan of Andrew Tater Tot, and obviously has anger issues. He raises his bottle to smash it on Alec's head, but Alec effortlessly uses a mana shield to block the attack and turns to face him. The man smiles, happy to finally get attention. He already knew Alec was a court magician, and claims he wouldn't expect someone as elite as him to be roaming around trying to become an adventurer. This sudden change in mood surprises Alec, but what surprises him more is when the big burly man takes out a card from his pocket. It turns out to be an adventurer's pass, and puts it down on the table. Alec is confused and asks what the hell he's doing, but the man simply replies that it's a token of apology for testing him with a bottle. He also adds condition that Alec must show his magic if he wants to pass. Alec is still confused when Yora the idiot wakes up groggy and calls the man the guildmaster, asking what he is doing here. Alec is at a loss for words, wondering why the guildmaster would give him a pass, but the man seems chill and hands it over before taking him to the training ground. He claims this is the underground training area where he tests parties who want to level up, and this is where Alec will show him his strength. Yora points out that it might not be the best time since Alec has been drinking, but Alec insists he still has enough mana to fight. The guildmaster formally introduces himself as Levy, and that immediately rings a bell in Alec's head. Levy is a very powerful mage who used to lead an S-rank party. Levy laughs, saying those are blurry memories now, and clarifies a simple requirement. Alec has to impress him with his magical skill. They prepare for the sparring session, and Alec opens with an offensive thunderbolt magic, which Levy expertly dodges and answers with water magic, tossing water balloons at him. Alec dodges and realizes Levy has the upper hand in range, so he decides to turn the fight into close quarters. To his surprise, instead of backing off, Levy slams the ground with his fists and uses reinforcement magic on himself to boost his speed. He dashes at Alec, sidesteps at the last moment, and starts revolving around him at incredible speed before trying to land a solid punch, which Alec barely blocks with his mana shield. The shield shatters from the force and Alec is blasted into the walls, but Levy is impressed by his durability, noting not many survive that punch. Alec walks out of the dust, calling Levy a true S-ranked adventurer. Levy expected Alec to be scared, but his nonchalant nature confuses him. Alec says he keeps forgetting he's no longer a court magician bound by rules and forced into defensive magic. Now unbound, he can let go and use his full arsenal. Levy laughs and tells him to come at him full force. Alec takes out his stiffwood again, transforming it into a magical blade. Levy prepares more water balloons, but this time Alec dodges the first and slashes the next. He feints offense to force Levy into a move, then lays a trap explodes him with thunderbolt, and slashes to the other side. Levy stands stunned, admitting Alec already overpowered his magic, but he's not done. He activates his trump card, bringing out magical gauntlets covered in dragon scales that boost his strength immensely. With that power, he rushes at Alec, who barely dodges. The punches create a crater, but Alec refuses to back down and casts lightning. Levy shakes it off and pushes through, trying to punch Alec, who blocks, but is shoved back. Levy reveals that the gauntlets heal him of injuries, so the longer the fight drags on, the worse Alec's chances. Levy pushes the attack and slashes at Alec, who tries to counter but finds every strike blocked as Levy taunts him to do better. Alec trash talks, tilting Levy, who tries a powerful punch. Alec dodges and finds an opening to attack, annoying the guildmaster further. Levy lashes out, but hits a wall as Alec nimbly evades beneath it. Unrelenting, Levy aims another strike, but Alec blocks and attempts a winning blow. The guildmaster soaks the damage and prepares a double-handed smash that fills the air with dust. When the dust clears, Alec emerges unharmed and goes after Levy again, but this time his stiffwood goes limp when he runs out of mana and he collapses unconscious. Yora rushes in, using regeneration magic to heal him. Suddenly, Rain appears in the training ground, mocking Levy for being an S-ranked adventurer who used his strongest skill on a lower-ranked person. Levy retorts that he was merely testing Alec's limits, and that he would have passed. Rain picks Alec up and takes him to a room to rest, sitting on his legs for some odd reason. They talk about how long it's been since they've been together like this. When the receptionist bursts in saying she urgently needs a guildmaster, Levy grabs her face and drags her out of the room. Rain grabs Booze and asks Yora to tell him everything that happened with Alec. By the time she finishes, Rain is shaking with anger as he realizes the people in his party made him carry all their stuff, do their inventory, never let him use magic apart from defensive spells, and didn't even let him carry a dagger. He suddenly turns toward Yora and asks how Alec even used defensive magic, since that was his job at the academy, and he was never good at it. Yora replies that Alec learned it from scratch and worked at it until he became good. Now his defensive magic is almost as good as hers. Rain realizes that even after babysitting the crown prince, they still banished Alec as worthless. He shatters the bottle in his hands in anger, which wakes Alec. Surprised to see Rain, Alec is delighted when Yora exclaims that the guildmaster gave him the pass. Now they can all move toward higher-level dungeons as a party. But Rain says it can wait. First, they need to do something else. Alec has no idea what he means, but Rain explains they must take revenge. They plan to sneak into the royal city and palace to beat the prince and his party. Alec objects, and Yora says fighting other parties is strictly prohibited. Alec puts a hand on Rain's shoulder and says having a lot of fun on their adventure will be enough. He no longer cares about the court. Rain then declares their real plan: become the strongest party in the world. That would infuriate the prince, and if their country ever needed help, they could refuse aid to the palace and feel the power of saying no to their faces. Alec realizes this is the best compromise and agrees to become the strongest party in the world. Meanwhile, in another room, an injured S-ranked adventurer named Krista breathes hard while the receptionist bandages her. The guild master doesn't look amused. If an S-rank party is in trouble, the whole guild is. Krista tells Levy her party is stranded and needs all the help they can get. The guild master immediately convenes an emergency meeting, calling all A-rank adventurers and explaining they're going on a rescue mission to the 64th floor. Back in Alec's room, he meets Kra after a long time. Her two personalities seem to have developed nicely. She asks why he's not at the meeting. Alec replies he's not an A-ranked adventurer, so he stayed back. She casts a heal spell that completely heals Alec in an instant, which makes him wonder why they were using bandages on Krista, if heal magic exists. Yora and Rain enter the room, and Rain screams with excitement that they're going on a rescue mission. He briefs Alec on the situation. That particular dungeon floor is different. Magic cannot be used there, so they must depend on potions, and because the S-rank party was wiped out, they sent Krista alone to fetch help. Alec asks Kra if she's fine working in that dungeon since she specializes in healing magic. She replies hotly that she opposed it, but Rain overruled her and used his veto to enter. They bicker until Yora turns to Alec, saying it should be up to him whether they go into the dungeon since he'll have the main and hardest job facing the floor boss. Alec agrees to the mission, and soon they head toward the dungeon. Standing at the entrance, Rain proclaims this will be the start of the legend of their party. They quickly reach the entrance of the dungeon, which has an affinity that prevents anyone from using healing magic, forcing them to rely on potions and dodge attacks as much as possible. The target level where Krista's guild members are trapped is near the level 64 boss, but before they can reach that point, they would have to clear all the other levels, including defeating each floor boss. Rain realizes that if they go level by level, they will be too late. But Yora pulls out a magic crystal, claiming Krista gave it to them, and with this, they can skip all the floors and teleport straight to level 64. Alec realizes the crystal must be a super rare and important magical item, but Krista only cares about saving her team, so she gave these crystals away without hesitation. Yora tells him that the level 64 boss is an undead, meaning Craw will be basically useless, and since Ta is a support mage, most of the battle will depend on Alec alone. Rain tells him to conserve his mana and let Rain handle the small fry, because he doesn't want Alec to run out of mana during the boss fight. Craw warns that from here on, they will literally be fighting death itself and should take things seriously, since even an S-rank party was wiped out here. Instead of being discouraged, Rain feels more alive than ever and hypes them up, declaring that the legend of their party begins now. With that, Yora tosses a crystal into the air, and they are teleported directly to level 64. They materialize in a dim cave, and immediately a swarm of undead skeletons rises with swords and shields. Rain, unfazed, grabs a spear and charges in, crushing multiple skeletons at once while joking that level 64 seems easy so far. More skeletons emerge, but Rain launches himself into the horde, slicing down enemies without hesitation. Yora begins to worry since Rain ran out of her support magic range, so she chases after him while calling out. Alec and Jaffalo follow, and Oz explains that Rain should be fine. He wields a powerful ancient artifact, the piercing black spear, which never dulls and is nearly indestructible, making it the perfect weapon for a reckless idiot like him. Alec asks if Rain needs help, but Rain confidently says this is child's play and keeps annihilating every skeleton around him. Alec smiles and walks forward, when suddenly he senses a strange presence behind him and instinctively fires a lightning bolt. No one seems to be there, and he begins doubting himself. He starts to walk away, but pauses, sensing something again, and suddenly charges forward with his sword, slashing empty air. This time, his blade gets blocked by an invisible enemy that reveals itself as the Grim Reaper. Rain grins, saying Alec isn't as washed up as he thought, explaining that he sensed the invisible enemy, but couldn't deal with it himself. The Grim Reaper pushes Alec back and attempts another attack, but Alec deflects a strike and leaps back toward Rain. He realizes Rain trusted him to guard his blind spot, a feeling he hasn't experienced in years. Fueled with renewed energy, Alec leaps into the air and slashes to the Grim Reaper with his magic sword, killing it instantly. He turns to Yora and asks if she knew about this, and she sheepishly apologizes. Craw then says he should blame Rain since it was his idea. Alec smiles at Rain and promises to repay him one day, and Rain laughs, saying they need to get out of the dungeon alive first. The four group up and prepare to fight the endless waves of skeletons. Alec and Rain rush ahead, carving through the undead with Yora, reinforcing them with her magic. Rain shows off flashy moves, slicing down every skeleton in his path. Karaji uses her precise archery to shoot down skeletons trying to ambush Rain, while she herself must defend with her staff. Realizing the waves will never stop, Alec calls everyone back and prepares a large-scale spell. His teammates gather behind him as he casts a powerful thunderbolt, blasting the cave with lightning and turning all skeletons into charred remains. Once safe, Rain asks Alec why he's only using thunder magic when he used to wield multiple offensive elements at the academy. Alec quickly lies, saying Thunderbolt is simply the fastest spell to cast. Rain knows he's hiding something, but doesn't press because they are short on time. Suddenly a monstrous roar echoes ahead, likely the boss room. Rain prepares himself, and once Yora buffs him, he dashes forward at insane speed. Alec admires both Rain and Yora's magic as he and the girls sprint after them through the tunnels. They reach an open chamber and find Rain perched on a ledge, watching a giant monster chase a bowl-cut adventurer. Alec instinctively tries to save him, but Rain stops him, saying the mage is Loki, a jerk from the Rec Roma party. Kra agrees, explaining Loki is a sneaky support magician. Alec watches in disbelief as Loki runs in circles, screaming for Rain to save him and threatening to haunt him if he dies. Rain doesn't seem interested, until Loki trips and the monster closes in. Alec prepares to jump in, but Kra tells him to wait. Alec watches as a trap spell activates under the monster, blasting it with lava. As it stumbles, it triggers more traps, getting hit repeatedly with fire blasts. Loki starts laughing, mocking the monster for falling for such obvious tricks. But his arrogance ends quickly when the enraged monster charges a massive magical blast. Loki realizes he is about to die, but Rain saves him at the last possible moment. Alec and the girls descend to engage the enemy. The monster tries to attack Alec, but Yora blocks it with her shield. Alec fires a thunderbolt, but the monster suddenly turns and charges at Rain and Loki. Alec yells a warning and fires another thunderbolt, which hits directly but still isn't strong enough. Rain realizes the monster is gaining on them, so he pulls off a risky maneuver, running between its legs to confuse it. He throws Loki toward Krisha, who catches him as both fall. Yora orders Krisha to get Loki safely up the ledge while they handle the monster. Rain steadies himself with a spear. Once Loki is safe, Yora buffs Rain again, and he rushes in, dodging attacks and leaping into the air to stab the monster in the face. But the monster is tougher than expected. It thrashes violently, knocking Rain to the ground. Yora rushes to him, but the monster tries to crush Rain. She barely manages to cast a shield spell to protect him, buying Rain time to recover. Meanwhile, Alec stands poised like conductor, forming 5 magic circles around the monster. Loki is shocked. Creating 3 circles is already difficult. Kra says Alec can do much more. Sure enough, Alec pushes further, generating 20 magic circles at once. The monster tries to charge again, but Rain climbs its body and stabs its tail, holding it in place so Alec can finish preparing his spell. Alec finally unleashes a thunderbolt barrage, electrifying the monster and locking it in place. But when Alec goes for the finishing blow, the monster sidesteps the attack, showing unexpected agility. It charges its own magical blast, but Kra blinds it momentarily. Yora follows up with a spell that binds it with massive magical chains. Rain uses this opening, hurling a spear like a javelin and piercing the monster's head. Alec prepares the final strike. The monster, refusing to die, attempts another blast, but Alec stands unfazed and activates a spell only 2 people in the world know. Reflection magic, invented by elders and mastered only by Alec. He reflects the monster's spell back at double power. The monster survives, barely. So Alec combines reflection magic with multiple circles, engulfing the monster in a colossal inferno. As it burns, Rain finishes it by slicing its head in half. They celebrate their victory, but Loki interrupts, thanking Alec and saying he knows him as the court magician. Alec says he quit that job, and Loki replies it's the prince's loss. Loki then shocks him by revealing the monster they fought wasn't a floor boss, but a sub-boss that chased him and got separated. The group is stunned. If the sub-boss was this strong, how powerful is a real boss? Loki explains that the true boss is a necromancer wearing black armor, and physical attacks only stall it. He then presents Alec with an ancient artifact, a wand with cross at the top, which transforms into a sword in Alec's hands. Rain is suspicious, asking why Loki would give away such a valuable relic. Loki laughs, explaining that he plans to use Alec as bait in the vanguard. Alec looks weak, so the boss will target him, allowing them to set up an ambush, kill the boss, and claim their glory. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.